Hey, welcome back to another episode of The Art of Giving a Damn. My guest today is Anastasia Chopelas, and she's got a very unusual combination of scientific curiosity and heritage as a fourth-generation healer that makes her very uniquely qualified to understand some very interesting parts of health, success, relationships. So, Anastasia, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much, Michelle. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, I'm excited to have a conversation because your journey to where you're at is really fascinating. You retired after 40 years as a physicist and quantum researcher, and now you are doing something pretty dramatically different.
Oh, yeah, very dramatically different. It might sound dramatically different, but it really isn't.
Okay, so walk us through like the short version of what you do and then how you went from quantum physics into this.
Okay, so the short version of what I do is I discovered that I can move energy, and from that I created medical miracles. Well, it's not me, it worked through me. And so I do two things right now. I work with people individually to help them heal and get past where the doctors all said, there's nothing more we can do for you. You'll have to live with it the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And then I also teach people how to do the things that I do because I've systematized it. And where I came from was I studied vibrations of matter as a physicist. And when you're in the vibrational world, you're in the quantum world. Right? Because everything is vibration. All of our atoms, our electrons, our protons, neutrons, and subatomic particles are all some sort of vibration. So by studying vibrations of matter, I got to understand the world in a very different way. Like when I look at things, wherever I go, wherever I look at things, I go, oh, that's how that works. You know, you see colors or a spider web or, you know, oil slick on the road, anything, I see it in terms of science. And so I also look at the body in terms of science. So that's how the two connect.
That is really fascinating. So what was the conversation that you had when you decided to, you know, retire after 40 years as a physicist that had you decide, let me go into this for kind of the next phase of life?
Well, I have to tell you that nobody decides that. You're kind of, it's a calling. It's like,
fair enough.
You can't not do it. Like I could not do it. And it's like, you know, the way everything is, first you get a little tap on the shoulder, and then you get a little bit louder voice, and then you get a knock on the head, and then pretty soon somebody comes with a big 4x4 and knocks you flat, and you're going, okay, I guess I'm not supposed to be doing this anymore. And the knocking flat was I got very, very sick. And I was doing all the right things. I was, you know, running 6 miles before breakfast and lifting weights and, you know, eating a healthy diet. I was nice and lean, and I had this super duper high blood pressure, and I was like really tired and high cholesterol and body pain from head to toe. And I was only like 42 years old. So, so I just said, there's got to be something more to health than just this. And that's where I, you know, took a deep dive into energy medicine. And I was still working as a scientist and studying energy medicine. I became a Reiki master. I, you know, studied lots of books. I did a lot of reading, a lot of meditating, and you know, I got a lot of information. You know, the universe is full of great information. Everybody gets inspirations, and that's what I did. And about 5 years ago, I opened up a private practice. I was doing, you know, free healings on people, and just over 5 years. It was March of 2013. I opened up a private practice, and in 2 weeks, I made like $3,000. And I'm going, wow, this was easy.
I can see where that would give you some confidence to move that direction. But I gotta ask, when you started kind of diving into saying that while you were still doing physics, what did people around you think? Did you have conversations with them about it?
No, because whenever anybody talked, so when I worked at UNLV, which is University of Nevada in Las Vegas, They had a Department of Existential Studies, and I would see the guests come in, and I was like, oh, yeah, so that George Anderson, oh, yeah, he sounds interesting. He channels, right? Channels, he's a medium, and he listens to the ghosts that from the other side giving messages to their loved ones. And I went to see him, and there were like 600 people in the audience, and it was totally fascinating. And I'm sitting there listening. I go, yeah, he's telling the truth, because I have like a BS meter inside me, and I'm going, yeah, he's telling the truth. It's all my experience. That's just how it happens. Yeah. And then the rest of the physicists in my physics department were going, oh, did you see who's there? Department of Existential Studies. I'm going like, I'm not telling him.
Right. That's kind of what I was wondering, because that very, very scientific left brain physicist type, it seems so opposite of the more spiritual, energetic stuff. It's so interesting the way you've blended them together.
Yes, and the great thing about that is that as I piece things together, like I'll hear a piece of information, like I heard a piece of information, let's say 25 years ago, and then somebody says something now, oh, you know, sugar feeds cancer. And I'm going, oh, yeah, there was a study in Italy of women, the ones that had the highest incidence of breast cancer, ate the most pasta, right? So that's just like this little bit of information. And that's how I do everything. You take a little information and you go, oh, yeah, I remember that. Like, why did it stick in there? I don't know.
No, but it's good that it does. So it sounds like a lot of what you do is just connecting the dots from everything that you've learned.
Right. So
that's really fascinating.
So, for example, the energy field that's around us, a doctor measured it like almost 100 years ago. The medical science has known about the energy field of the body for over 25 years. I mean, over almost 90 years. This is like in the 1930s, right? So at 2020, we're at 2018. So it's like 90 years they've known about this, and yet they deny its existence. And now we're measuring the radiation of emotions off the heart by the Heart Math Institute that are feeling they can measure them out 20 feet. But I think that they're farther, because the heart has the strongest emanation out of the body. It's like got the biggest reach.
That is really fascinating. So I'm wondering, and I think, you know, a lot of people that I talk with, a lot of the listeners have had this conversation with me, that when they came out, so to speak, about, you know, having this other side of themselves where they do see, I guess, like combining those sides of the world, the very logical with the spiritual and energetic side, it was a challenge for a lot of them to have conversations with family or colleagues or others about it. What helped you to make that transition? Like, looking back, what do you wish you had known, or what's some advice you would give to somebody who's thinking, this is actually, I want to move in that direction? They see what you've done and they're thinking, how the heck did she do that?
Well, I take it and I make it sound like it's totally normal to everybody. I don't use woo language to describe it. And people will call, so auras and chakras, what they really are is your body energy field, which is generated by the entity that's you, that's sitting inside this body. And the chakras are really in and out channels where we can release energy, we can also take in energy. So they have to be open to feed the various parts of the body. And we have them on every joint, you know, we have them everywhere. We have thousands of them on the body, but the major ones are like around the heart, around the throat, the third eye, things like that, things that you've heard of. So I just talk about it in really practical terms, and because I know a lot of biochemistry and physiology, I just pull it all together for people, and they say, well, what are chakras? And I say, well, actually, if you look on a physiological diagram, you'll see that all the nerve endings come together right here at the throat or right here at the heart. you'll see the nerve endings and receptors. And this has been researched, by one researcher who discovered the meridians of the body are aligned along all the receptors. So like endorphin receptors, for example, line along the meridians. So I just tell it in practical terms so everybody goes, oh, yeah, that makes total sense, right?
Yeah, that does make sense. And it is interesting how much of what certain cultures especially, I think, have looked at over decades or centuries. Just now, Western medical science is going, oh, well, there might be something to this. That's got to be really cool for you to watch and see people starting to come around more to what's possible.
Right. It's coming full circle. So a lot of the people that are in the spiritual science or in the spiritual world are starting to look at science and going, oh, look, it connects the dots, and vice versa, the people in the science world. So for you telling me about the family members, I grew up with a grandmother always having, precognizant dreams.
Oh, wow.
So then when I told my mom, I finally admitted to her, that I had all these skills, and she goes, oh, just like my mom. So it was not like, it was not tough. And,
right. So your family was pretty open to it.
Yeah, and then I told my brother, and he goes, yeah, when I was little, I saw the spirits. I'd be laying in bed, and one would lean over me, and I'd go, get out of here. So he's a clairvoyant. My daughter's a clairvoyant. I'm a clairsentient. My sister's a clairsentient. My dad's a clairvoyant. Like, we all have these skills. But the thing is that everybody has them. It's just that so the difference between a person that is sensitive to that and the ones that aren't are, it's actually in the field. So our field has, like, our experiences, our thoughts, our feelings, they're all there. And when it's like, in the old days, televisions used to have snow on them, right?
Right, yeah.
So it's like you can't see the picture for the snow. And so it's the same thing. You can't see it for the snow. And so getting calm and centered and some deep breathing will allow you to tap into that world, because we all have access to it.
Yeah, I definitely remember the snow on the TV, and you'd have to adjust the little rabbit ear antenna and maybe put foil on it to get it to work.
Yeah, or rotate it, bend the arms.
So I guess it's a matter of we have access to those other parts of reality, but you got to get your antenna pointed the right way, so to speak.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
If somebody is listening and they're wondering, okay, well, what do you do to really open yourself up and repoint your antenna? You mentioned, getting still and calm. What are some practical steps people can take, every day to deepen their connection with the more spiritual, energetic side of things if they're looking for that?
Well, I call that part energy hygiene. You wash your hair, you take a shower in this heat, like sometimes 2-3 times a day.
Sometimes. Yeah. Yep.
And, so there is something that I call energy hygiene. So just the most important thing that we have is connections to other people, right? So those connections sometimes can get muddied. So every morning when I get up I release all the connections, because I'm a healer. Everybody gloms onto me at night. And I just release all the connections. I'll do some yoga, some stretching, and get the meridians moving. And, exercise is good for everybody. I'll go outside and go for a walk. And then I'll come back and I'll take a salt shower, which means you just put some salt in your hand, wet it, and start at the top and work your way down. And what the salt does is it releases the excess or nervous energy off the body. It just cleans off what I call the poopy energy, right? So those are some things. And then the other is to straighten up your spine, pull your shoulders back, and take some nice deep breaths all the way down as far as you can go. Because most people, women were taught we shouldn't have a gut that hangs out, so we suck it in, and then everybody breathes from the chest. And that deep breathing is what helps bring you back down into your body. And then I have a free little 11-minute called Wake Up Your Brain audio. It's free. Go on my website, scientifichealer.com, and download it. And that does it all for you.
Well, that sounds like a great solution. For those listening or watching, wherever you're catching this, there will be a link somewhere near the audio or the video in the show notes where you can find that. Wake Up Your Brain audio. Make sure that you download a copy of that and take a listen.
Yeah, it takes you deep into trance in a few minutes,
Okay.
and then it just sets your energy body and takes you out, and then you're ready to go. I have some people that listen to it 2 or 3 times a day because their brain gets all confused by everything. They're running a big business. One of my clients runs a $500,000 business out of her home, and it helps keep her priorities straight. And that's,
like I said, because a lot of times when we're overwhelmed by or taking on a lot of energy, it's hard to stay focused, to keep going through our calendar, our list. That makes a lot of sense.
It does. And then the other thing that people can do is I have lots of little classes. You know, I even have a little program that teaches you 5 or 6, like there's 4 major tips of what to do every day. If you just do those 4 things, which takes under 5 minutes, you know, it makes a really huge difference. I just taught one of them, and I'll just teach it right now. I just taught one of them to one of my friends, clients, and she does phone sales all day long. And you know how phone sales, right? You get on the phone, the other person's needy, or they're, you know, pleading poverty or what. And
it can be challenging.
Right? You get off the phone and you're going, oh, right? Yeah. So I said, just imagine that person has hooked into you. So now you're going to release all the hooks, let it all go down into the ground, give them back their energy, reclaim yours after every phone call. And so by the end of the day, she still had energy left instead of going home completely flat on their back. So that's just that one tip changed her life.
You know, what's interesting about that is there's so many things that we don't even realize are happening energetically, that the minute somebody points it out and gives us that kind of tool to deal with it, it's like, oh, well, that makes total sense. I see why that would work, but you just don't think about it because we're not, that's not the kind of things that you learn in school, not normal school.
No, and I was so sensitive from the time I was little that if I walked in a room and somebody was upset, you know, like a boyfriend or whatever, I'd walk in a room and I'd go, so why are you upset? I'm not. And I said, well, you said you look mad. I'm not mad. It's like, and I'm going, okay, whatever. But yeah, so that's, you know, and I think we all feel that. Like when somebody's happy in a room, it cheers us up. And when somebody's upset, you get, like, for me, it feels like itching powder goes all over my body. Right.
You know, it's interesting because I think I know a lot of my listeners and a lot of the people that I work with as clients, they're coaches, they're consultants, they're healers, they're very, very sensitive to those types of emotions from other people. And it's interesting because it is both a huge gift and a strength, and it can also be a weakness if we don't know how to handle it. Like you said, when you're not even fully aware, you walk in a room and it's like, whoa, what is going on in this room? It can be a challenge, but it is really a huge gift if you know how to use that.
Right. And so there, you know, on my YouTube channel or on my blog, I give like little tips all the time for people. Like if you have a horrible boss from hell, or, you know, you have an ex that you keep getting hooked into and it drives you down, like there's like tips for all those things, what to do. I have a lot of free gifts, you know, like an energy clearing between people, or right. So those are little things that can make a huge difference in your life.
Yeah.
I cleared off, you know, people said I have a stalker that's following me around and I don't know how to get rid of him. He's calling me all hours of the day or night. So I did this little thing. It took 10 minutes, and she didn't hear from him for 3 weeks. And then he says, I don't know what happened, but I can't feel you anymore. So I just disconnected them energetically. And so he just disappeared out of her life. Right. So those kinds of things, like you wouldn't think they were energetic. You would think it's because he's somehow crazy. But there was an energetic connection that needed to be released.
So there's got to have been a lot of fascinating things that you've worked on over the years. What has been your favorite thing about what you do?
I think my favorite thing is that people are now thriving where they weren't before. You know, like the first time it happened, I had two cases. One, I had a case in which a guy was in a coma, and he was he got told by the doctors that he wouldn't survive. He was in a bad car accident, he had brain injury, had a broken arm and a broken leg, and a truck had T-boned him on a bicycle. So he was very badly injured. And I've known him since he was a little boy. He's a member of our church. I belong to a Greek church. And so I went in the hospital, and I could tell he was about to die. You know, I could see, I just have this sense about it. And I told him he had to get back down into his body. And I did healings on him. And I had to keep checking in with him because his spirit kept trying to escape the body. So I just kept pulling him back in. And he woke up 3 weeks later, and he's fine now. And when I got first tasked with doing that, because it was a family, when I got tasked with doing that, I thought, my God, who am I to make that kind of difference in the world? Who am I? And what I heard is, who are you not? Right? Like, why not you? So then things started happening where I had a lady who was very sick because she had a suppressed immune system, and she had it for 40 years. And within 2 months, her immune system came up to normal. And that she had been to the top experts in the country in her particular condition, which I had never heard of. And now she stopped being on antibiotics. She started being able to go out and enjoy her children and her grandchildren. Her business started thriving. She wasn't doing anything different. She was this cheerful person. And I go, my God, her life transformed from, being a recluse to having a real life. And then another one inherited a kidney disease and was on the transplant list and ready to go into dialysis in the meantime. And now he's 71 with healthy functioning kidneys, right? So even though it seems kind of hard to believe, but if you were to plot the trajectory of where his life would be at the moment, if he would still be alive. I started working with him 4 years ago, and he's on a maintenance plan now, because I told him, well, you can fly on your own. He goes, no. half hour a month. I said, okay, we'll do half hour a month. But, he's got healthy functioning kidneys, and he talks about me all the time. So this is the interesting part. So everybody knew of his condition. He talks about me all the time. And he recommends me to people all the time, but nobody ever calls.
I bet.
Is that funny?
That is really interesting. I think sometimes certain things are so almost unbelievable that people don't dare hope it might be possible.
Yes, and I have dozens of cases just like, and these are just a few. I have dozens of cases just like that. I have my book has 75 case studies in it, and that was written like 3 years ago. That was only after I'd been in practice for 2 years.
Well, and for those who are curious and listening, where can they find your book at?
Well, it's on Amazon. It's called
Amazon.
Yeah, it's called the Diamond Healing Method. Get healthy no matter what your doctor says. And if you go onto my website, you'll find it right there. There's a link right from my website, the front page. You just scroll down the page, and it's right there and linked right to Amazon.
Awesome. And Anastasia's website, for those of you listening or watching, is scientifichealer.com. When you land on the page, there's a couple of things you can find. If you scroll down a little bit, you'll see the Wake Up Your Brain audio, as well as some support resources for those who are healers and in business. So definitely stop by, check that out. You can also find her radio show and some other cool goodies on her site to dive in a little more and find out what she does, how she may be able to help you if you're struggling with some of the things that we've talked about, or you know someone who is. You know, one of the things that you said, just to kind of wrap up here, that I think would be good to leave people with, you said when you started feeling like, you know, who am I to do this? And you heard that voice that said, who are you not? That's one of the things that, you know, I talk with clients a lot about. They'll say, well, I kind of feel like, how dare I? And my response is always, how dare you not? You have a gift that you can help people and change the world for people if you get out there with it. And it can be tough sometimes to get past that, who am I, how dare I? So what's one piece of advice that you would give anyone who's struggling with that, who they know that, like you, they have something they're supposed to be doing, but they have that who am I feeling?
So one of the things that I learned in doing all of this, it's really profound work, and it's very intimate. When I work with somebody, I'm reaching into their body energetically. Very profound work. That one of the things that I learned is that we're all infinite beings of light, and there are no limitations. And so everyone, like, my task is to teach people that this is possible, and to show them that it's possible. Here's the science. Here we proved it. Here we're doing it. Show them, and also to give them a system to work within so they can do this for themselves and grow from it. So we are truly infinite beings of light. We're just composed of these vibrations, and our thought processes and our wishes can dictate how it goes, right? And like a lot of people, like, you know, I don't look that old. Well, I'm 65 going on 66, right?
Oh, no, you do not look that old.
so, you know, and, and I just went out yesterday and did 120 lunges down the street, you know, up and back. Right?
Wow.
So
Okay.
people are going like, you know, so I just want you to know that you don't have to age at the same pace. You don't have to, your brain doesn't have to go away. You don't have to be sick. I have Medicare. I never use it.
That's a good thing.
Right. So there's all these things, and we're truly infinite. So if you want something to happen, you can make it happen. And if you stop yourself, you will stop yourself. Right. So whatever your heart desires, you can have. And anytime you say, well, what do you mean I can't, I can have that? What? And so usually we stop ourselves. Like, I've stopped myself many times. And I have to keep reminding myself, you're an infinite being of light. You could do whatever you want. You could create whatever miracle you want to happen. Right?
That is a great perspective. Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing a few minutes with me here and coming on the show today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're most welcome. I love talking about these stuff, as you can obviously tell. And the other thing is that joy is the highest human expression in frequency. It's the highest human expression. So be happy. Be happy and joyful.
I love that. We'll leave everybody with that thought today. Be happy, be joyful, and make sure you connect with Anastasia. Again, you can find her at scientifichealer.com. Grab that audio, reach out, and connect, and learn a little bit more about just how in control you can be of some of the things happening around you. Thank you so much again for being on today, and thank you everybody for tuning in. Be sure you like, subscribe, rate, review wherever you are watching or listening, and I will catch you on the next episode.